what happened was my grandmother passed away, and she really fought to like just have a burial service at the church. And I was like, this is a woman who's been in the church for 30 years, and she has the fight to have a burial service there. So then fast forward, I meet Maisha, and Maisha is really like in the church, and I'm like, hey, listen, church isn't everything that you think it is. And she was just like, she was adamant about me going and just keep on going to church. And I'm like, hey, look, I'm not getting anything. I asked them, I have a question. They give me a scripture. I'm like, hey, okay, I can read, but how does this scripture help me, not just today, but tomorrow? And we kept on searching for churches. And I just started seeing so many different things that were going on in church that wasn't really, I didn't feel like was appropriate. And it really pushed me further and further from just being associated with the church.
Hey there, I'm Ari, your petite but powerful Kingdom teaching professor and entrepreneur. I bring the sass, the laughs, and the serious, let's get real and heal moments without any filters. Now meet my mom, Pastor Dee, the #1 dunamis woman leading our Healing for My Soul movement. As a Kingdom teaching pastor and life coach, she is unapologetically real, raw, and radical, but she's our rock and the voice of wisdom that we all need. And then there's Allison, fierce yet tender, and the voice for many single mothers. She's the silent heartbeat of our family and will be the first to tell you, yeah, life with these two can be crazy, but I got their back and we're in this together. As a dynamic trio, we spearhead the Healing for My Soul movement, sharing the miraculous healing power of God through our journey, truths, and a little humor as we guide women to pursue healing as a lifestyle so they may experience freedom within their life and legacy.
Well, here we are, you all, for another episode of Healing for My Soul podcast. I am so excited because we are rolling week by week, week by week, week by week. But it's getting gooder and gooder, as I always say, better and better, because we are talking about healing in the Black church that is really, really needed. Well, you know, our church consists of man, woman, child, son, daughters. I'm surprised people ain't even bringing their pets to church, the Black folks. But at the end of the day, we want to capture the hearts of the Black man. And I have been in church all my life, and it's naturally more women than men. And men are not easy to capture the heart for healing in the Black church, but we got to do that. We got to change the trajectory of what we're doing, because the Black man is hurting just like the Black woman is hurting. So I have a Black man who I respect, I honor. He is a husband. He is a father. He is a real authoritative man, and that's the one only Kevin Booker. How are you, sir?
I am well. Thank you.
You good?
Yes, ma'am.
You ready to have a good time with me?
Have a good time.
You know how I roll.
Yes, ma'am.
Loud.
Yes, ma'am.
Crazy.
Yes, ma'am.
Radical.
Yes, ma'am.
A little bit ignorant.
Yes, ma'am.
But you tell the truth.
Yes.
We ain't got to remember nothing. Nothing. Look, I met you through your wife.
Yes.
Who is a dunamis woman. And she was hurting because she was married to a Black man.
Yes.
Who would that be?
Myself. Myself.
And she was hurting, I believe, more so because you was hurting.
Yes.
Talk about that just a little bit. I don't want to dig deeper in that, but just give us a little backdrop.
So I think my wife and I both were hurting. Just our backgrounds, just some of the things that we had endured over time. And not really getting the healing that we really needed. Searching for healing, but not getting it, and continuing to search and running into brick walls. And that really hurt us going forward. And that's how my wife really got to become associated with dunamis. But for me, I had nothing. So I was still out there like just living while she was finding herself, and I was still lost.
Now, I'm going to tell you the truth. She did discover dunamis woman because she was a hurting Black woman who loved the Lord.
Yes.
She had a whole lot of religiosity in her.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, she didn't know how to win your heart for healing. But when we get healed, you all get healed. But Kevin Booker, you was giving me a hard time. You was giving her a hard time. You was skeptical. Who is this woman? Who they taking my money? How they doing this? Typical things is what a Black man do in the church and say, and won't never go like yourself.
Yes.
Oh, let's talk about it.
So through the course of time, as far as me, I didn't grow up in church. So I was absolutely like new to it. I didn't know what to expect. I went as a young child, I would say, with my grandmother, but I fell asleep on some woman's lap in church. So I wasn't receiving the word. I didn't hear the word. And then as I got older, I'm like, what happened was my grandmother passed away, and she really fought to like just have a burial service at the church. And I was like, this is a woman who's been in the church for 30 years, and she has the fight to have a burial service there. So then fast forward, I meet Maisha, and Maisha is really like in the church, and I'm like, hey, listen, church isn't everything that you think it is. And she was just like, she was adamant about me going and just keep on going to church. And I'm like, hey, look, I'm not getting anything. I asked them, I have a question. They give me a scripture. I'm like, hey, okay, I can read, but how does this scripture help me, not just today, but tomorrow? And we kept on searching for churches. And I just started seeing so many different things that were going on in church that wasn't really, I didn't feel like was appropriate. And it really pushed me further and further from just being associated with the church.
So many women's hearts are bleeding because they love the Lord and they want their husband to be right there. They want them to come to church and worship and just receive like they're receiving. But it ain't going to work for every black man.
No.
Tell us about it. Talk to us as women, because you all don't express yourself. Y'all just say, I ain't going. They ain't going to tell me nothing.
Yeah, so for me, it was just a lot of different things going on in the church that I just wasn't comfortable with. I mean, I saw so much fraternization, people just too much touchy-feely. Like, it's okay to hug, but you're coming for a third and fourth hug, and the hug extending in time, and I'm just like this just doesn't seem right, you know. And we would go to Bible study, and they had like a deacon, and every time I would ask a question, he was like, that's not the topic this week, that we're staying on basically on task. And I'm like, but my task isn't applicable to the Bible study that's going on. And, you know, and I really got pushed further and further away. It was more, the Bible study was really directed more to the women that was in the Bible study. And I'm like, but what about me? I'm steadily asking myself, what about me? Who do I talk to? And I had no one in place to talk to. So I just really just got even deeper and deeper into my shell, and I stayed to myself. But I would always go to the churches with I would always try to be a part of it, thinking that I would find something different, another door would open for me, but it never happened.
You know, when I first met you, if anybody watching them right now, they could tell you an old soul. And just listening to the fact that you went with your grandmother tell me it's something inside of you.
Yes, ma'am.
That typically a woman possessed that.
Yes.
But you as a black man possess that. I'm going to come back to that, but let's turn this down the street a little bit, because I want to know, what is it going to take for us as the church to reach the black man for your heart to heal?
I think for me, since I've met you, the one thing I say that keeps me coming more and wanting to do more with you is your honesty and your transparency. You're not afraid to tell me, hey, Booker, you're full of it. I don't agree with that. And as well, and say it in a way that I understand it. A lot of times, yes, ma'am. So a lot of times people want to paint a picture of this beautiful picture, but you don't want to tell me the real life was behind the picture. And that's what I appreciate about you. You tell me the honest truth, whether I want to hear it or agree with it or not, is the honest truth. And I think for black men, we need that. Not every black man can handle the truth, but most black men can handle the truth. And I think that being transparent and honest and telling them that they're full of it. You need to get your stuff together. You need to stop doing what you're doing. And I appreciated that from you. And I think that's something that all black men need to keep us coming and engage more and more into what's going on with Dunamis.
Well, it's very difficult to give you a scripture when I see a lot of other stuff going on. We're going to get there.
Yes.
But we got to address some of the other stuff. I want to continue down a path as I go back with your grandmother. And I want you to speak about this, because I think this is one of the biggest barriers of black men, because as your grandmother raised you, I believe there was an impartation. I see why you love them women's laps now. You was laying and going to sleep on them laps. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Another topic, another story. Black man need healing. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, there's a void of mother.
Yes.
Grandmother taking the black young son, black grandson, shielding them, protecting them. That's all we knew.
Yes.
And you all went, but you were still getting something that some other person could not come in and understand. But there's still a void of mama.
Yes.
And I think the black man is hurting because we are hurting because we don't understand how you all are hurting based upon black mothers who haven't really fulfilled something that you require.
Yes, ma'am.
Speak about that a little bit. Am I on the mark?
Hey sis, so I know you're listening to this powerful episode, but let me tell you, there are so many other women that you need to connect with, and this is why I want to invite you to join our Healing for My Soul community. Yes, other women who are on this healing journey that you can be able to learn from, grow from, share your wounds with, share your wins with as you're on your healing journey. So connect to our community just by texting podcast, that's PODCAST, text podcast to 404-737-0580 and get connected with us, and you'll get all the information on how to join our community. Again, that's podcast at 404-737-0580. Now let's get back to the episode.
So, yes, ma'am. So, for me, my grandmother really got me really going to church, bringing me to church, because my mother was already removed from church. She wanted nothing to do with church. So my grandmother knew that I needed that in my life, like just growing up. And my mother wouldn't take me. My mother didn't even go to church. So my grandmother would take me religiously, you know, and just not necessarily to actually learn, just know that there was a place. My grandmother felt like church was a place that she can go in there on Sundays and just be herself, be free, get some words to just get her through the next week. And that was something that that's what made me really continue to go with is because I thought that based off what I saw with my grandmother, that we could get something from this, because my grandmother was faithful to the church. It started off as a real local church. The church grew, but they left the people that had been the foundation of the church behind.
What did that do to your heart, though? This is your grandmother.
Yes.
What did that do to your heart? Because I believe a part of it closed off.
Yes, ma'am. Just seeing that, like, I was like, man, like, I just couldn't believe that when they only had just say about 100 members of the church to grow to maybe 10,000, and she was just left behind. She was just like a person. So when she passed, it was like they didn't even recognize her name. They didn't even know who she was. And I'm like, man, this is somebody who was there when the church was nothing, you know. And I was like, man, like, if they could do that to my grandmother, why would I be a part of this and watch them destroy, I guess, tear me down and treat me like I'm nothing? So,
can we go there?
Yes, ma'am.
You permit me?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you look like a man who handles his business.
Yes, ma'am.
You take care of your family. You got your nice crisp shirt on. You know what I'm saying? Got a nice clean haircut.
Yes, ma'am.
We got our Carmex.
Yes, ma'am.
Right there in your pocket. There you go. There you go. You have seen the transition, and this is how I'm putting it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what you're saying is that you see how the church was genuine.
Yes.
And they really loved the people. And you saw where your grandmother found a place that she can really be who she is, loving God.
Yes, ma'am.
But that same church grew from 100 to 10,000. It went from a church to a business.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Elaborate on that as a man.
So as a man, I just, you know, when I look back at that, I think about like how it went through phases. Like, it just didn't grow that fast, right? But through that process, it became really like a business. It became more about the contribution and expanding and growing. And I was okay with the expanding and growing, but it just lost its foundation. But my grandmother still was like so humble and believed that, okay, that this is the place to be. And then you start seeing so many different other things going on as the church grew. I mean, it just became so, it was just really crazy because the pastor went from being like a humble guy and they start treating him like he's God. Like he's like, I'm like, wow. You know, I mean, church has a way of like, when you get in, it's almost like an entertainment show, like going to a concert, because they always start off, whether it's man or woman, with this great singer who just captures your heart from the choir, and you just stand by and you're waiting for the pastor to come on. When he comes on, more than often, he gives a great sermon, but it's nothing after that. After that service is over, you know, we walk home and I'm like, man, this is a great service, but it's nothing that really feeds your heart. And as a young man, I'm like, man, I'm still empty.
Yeah.
You know, so.
How old were you then?
I had to be between, I would say about 6 to about 10.
Wow. That's that old soul.
Yes, ma'am.
That's that old soul.
Yes, ma'am.
That's that old soul. So I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of that pain that you experienced as a man based upon the hurt in that church and the healing was needed for your heart. When your wife met me and she began to invest in what she was believing in, you really had a stickler with that.
Yes.
You really thought, who is this taking my money? A black man gonna protect his money.
Yes.
And you wasn't gonna let nobody get your money.
Yes, ma'am.
That pain from that was inflicted upon here.
Yes.
But I knew how to handle it.
Yes, you did.
I knew how to handle it, but let's talk about that. Because a lot of y'all do that. A lot of men out there, sure, that nigga ain't getting my money.
But for me, it goes a lot deeper than that, because before my became a Dunamis woman, what happened was was steadily hopping from church to church, and we were just steadily giving money, and I'm like, well, what are we getting from this? What are you getting from this? We hadn't even taken it as far as not only giving money, we put our kids in school, so we're paying tuition, but we're still giving all this money, and I'm like, do these people even know your name? Like, you making all these contributions, we're doing all these things, but we never had like time with a pastor. I mean, we were just like a body just filling seats. And I was like, man, this seems like the same pattern that I saw as a young child. Now I'm seeing this as a man. I'm like, man, here we go again. So
can you imagine how many black men are saying that same thing to their wives?
Yes.
Can you imagine? A lot.
Yes.
A lot. And we just turn the ear off. But y'all got some truth into what you're saying.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Keep going.
So when Mai introduced her Dunamis to me, of course I was a little rebellious. I'm like, man, here we go again.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. Now you're saying this, and I'm like, and as well, now I got my guard up. I didn't want to hear what you had to say, even though I was like, okay, there's some truth in this, but I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. Here we go again. Mai, you done led me down this rabbit hole one too many times, and I'm like, I'm not going for it anymore. So that's how I initially felt. But to get to know you is to love you. So initially, I was just like, man, like, here we go again. Mine and found some other shenanigan. Here go the money. Here go the kids. Here go everything. But once I got to really, after the first conference and talking to you and things like that, I could really tell that your heart is really into helping people, helping men, helping women, whether they want to hear the truth
or not. Yeah,
you're going to tell them the truth. And I think that that's something that really keeps me coming, and it really keep a lot of black men coming, because we all need that.
Hey, you all. Healing is always needed for the heart of a woman's soul. So that's why I am here to admonish you. Get a copy of the book, Healing the Heart of a Woman's Soul. For over 20 plus years, I have been coaching women to go on their healing journey and walking it out. And you will find this compilation book, your story, your life, because why? All of us are dealing with pain. So go to www.healingformysoulpodcast.com and get a copy of your book today, because one woman's healing is another woman's healing. Now, enough of that. Let's get back to this episode. Why? Because healing is a lifestyle. You know, you were saying something, and I want to ask this from a personal standpoint, because it's kind of hard for me to understand or comprehend, because you were saying, Mai said, okay, here we go again, going down this rabbit hole. And it's so many men who are following woman that she say go here, they go there. She say come to this church, they go to that church. They just walking up behind the woman and just following her. Why is that?
So for me, I followed because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do as a man. So I would really get myself caught in situations that I really shouldn't have been in order to make it right. I would go to church with Mai
and do what she wanted you to do.
And I was all delusional, making me think, okay, this is going to make it work. But once I realized that church wasn't really it, I would go right back and do the things that I was doing. And if that meant for me to have to go back to church with her, I would. And we played this cat and mouse game. You know, I would do what I wanted to do. She'll drag me to church until I got to a point. I'm not going to church. I'm missing football. I'm just being honest with you.
That's the truth, though.
I'm missing
It's the
football. I may want to watch the game. I have some things I want to do. here you are dragging me into something that is make-believe. You know, you're captured by what they're saying. And like you said, Maya comes from a real religious background. And that really fed her for a minute. It really didn't complete her or give her what she needed, but for that moment in time, that hour, 2 hours in church, it gave her what she needed.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because what you're saying, and it's actually true, is that many of you all just go to shut us up.
Yes.
The bottom line.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Shut us up. You feel guilty from some of the indiscretions, transgressions that you have committed. So you feel obligated. And so just to make up for it, I'm going to go to church. Yes. But it ain't going to work for too long. Do you know that's a false sense of misleading?
Yes.
Yeah, that's hurt.
Yes.
That's pain. How do we heal from that? Because we want you all, we got to be authentic first. And if we authentic, I don't want nobody following me because, they just did something. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm not that kind of woman, Kevin. That's a whole other story and a whole other podcast. You know what I'm saying? But some women are intrigued by that. They want you all to tiptoe around them. They want you all to just be following them and leading them or whatever. How can we change the trajectory of that, particularly as we're building up real authoritative men? And we'll talk about that in a minute.
So I think that I would say for me, I needed Maya to be stronger, right? Like I will follow only because of my transition, the things that I was doing in our marriage and outside of our home. So for me, I needed her to be strong. And I thought that all the different religious programs, a lot of different churches that she was going to, that would eventually make her strong, right? But it didn't. It actually crumbled her. It made her weaker. So I knew that I could manipulate her by, if she said, okay, go to church or go to this meeting, I would do it. But she may have been getting something from it, but I was like seeing like right through it. I'm like, man, this is all a facade. This is just like a game, a charade. Like these people aren't even sincere themselves. So I think that women have to begin to become, not all women, but some women have to become stronger. Yeah. Because a lot of men, Black men especially, we are weak in religion as far as principles and things like that. We are so weak. So as some men, every man needs something different. But I needed my wife to be stronger, and she wasn't. So that really made me feel okay with doing some of the things that I was doing.
Do you see her strength rising?
Yes.
Do you see her miraculous strength manifesting?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
and
ma'am.
what is that doing to you to bring healing?
So for me,
make you feel a little out of control, though, don't it?
Initially, it made me feel out of control because I saw her basically put me on the back burner as she got herself together, and I was intrigued. Like, man, what? Something has really got her. I mean, she's studying, she's doing a lot of different things, and I was like, I was opposed to it initially. I was like, man, what is this? I'm not a part of this. I can't control it. But now what I see is a strong woman, a woman who she knows how to take care of her business. She has so many different outlets. And that's one thing I can say about Dunamis. They have given and I can only speak for my wife, so many different outlets, so many different channels to whatever she's going through. It could be, hey, you know somebody who can walk down the street properly. Yes, we got somebody that can walk down the street properly. And I think that me seeing that has made me want to be a part of it more because I see that it's not a game, it's not a trick, it's not a gimmick. And I think for men, a lot of times we have to put our feelings to the side as far as that and really just pay attention to the facts. The facts say that you are sincere, you are genuine, and you are a caring person. And that's all that I have asked of a pastor, of a spiritual leader, of anything like that, is just to be honest, factual, and just hear me. Just hear me.
How does it feel for a Black man? I'm just curious. This came up. This is where I was going to go, but I'll get to where I was. How does it feel for a Black man to be with a Black pastor, a woman, a Black woman pastor? Because I've been ridiculed by Black men.
I've never had one. So like it's new to me, right? So I didn't know what to expect. I will be honest with you. You hear a lot of things. People say, oh man, women shouldn't do this. Women shouldn't do that. So I've heard those things, but I didn't put them on you because I didn't know you. I didn't know you. So for me, it's always best for me to get to know the person. And from there, I can figure things out.
I don't think I'm the typical one, though.
No,
I don't think that I was what you was probably would expect.
no, you weren't. Like I guess mentally I had you pegged a certain way, but then when I got to know you and just talk to you, and I think our initial conversation was really on the phone or via FaceTime or Zoom or something like that, and I was like, man, she is different. Like I was like, is this just one call or is this all the time? So that was my initial thought.
Our vision here at Dunamis Woman is to spiritually birth you all into your authoritative place in Christ. Real authoritative men, you all have an authority. The world is trying to diminish your authority. I believe that you are the authority in the home. We believe that you are the authority in the earth. We believe that you all have to be in position for the kingdom. There is no kingdom without kings. And so many of you all are hurt.
Yes.
The church haven't reached, but our heart bleeds. But we are representing the kingdom. Because at the end of the day, your own home is the kingdom. You are the king in your own castle. She is the queen. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
And so we don't need your body more so. We just need your presence. Because the authority that you all carry, the enemy can't stand it.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why so many black men are out of the home, because we are open target. So with your healing, it took a lot for Mai to birth you. Not just in prayer, but in her posture.
Yes.
In her, and I know because I coached her, in her position, just seeing that. I mean, because people all say, what you mean birthing a real authoritative man? What you mean birthing? It's like a healing. It's a transformation that goes on in your heart. Does that make sense? Because naturally you all not coming in our womb and we birthing you, but it's a spiritual birthing that requires something out of us, that when we become healed and our posture and our poise and our responses to you all are different, saying and doing what y'all would never think, particularly under certain circumstances, it brings healing and it calls you to transform. You know what I'm speaking
Yes,
about?
ma'am.
Elaborate on that a little bit, because you are an example.
So I know you are listening to this episode on YouTube, but there are so many podcasters that are listening on Apple and Spotify. And so what I want you to do is make sure you go over there and write a really good review. I want to hear, what are you getting out of these episodes? We read them, we see them, we comment. So make sure you go over to Apple and Spotify and leave a review for us so that we can be able to hear your heart and where you are. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Yes, ma'am. So, I will go into a little bit about this. When Mai first came to Dunamis, Mai had decided to sleep in the basement, right? And you were like, you need to get your, I don't know if we can curse. I was like,
get your ass up in that
you
bed.
were like, get your ass up. You better get your ass upstairs. And I wasn't expecting that, right? I was expecting her to stay down there and you to be, hey, you need to get your stuff and get out of it. But those words really kind of like, it just changed the way that I looked at her, how I began to look at you, and I just saw her growth, right? She would say things to me. At first, I would like, hey, you better do this. She was like, no, I'm not doing that. Or either she would tell me why she's not doing it, and it would make me like, oh man, this is a different woman. And honestly, I didn't know how to handle this woman. I was like, I need some help. I need Mama D. I need to get some of this Mama D stuff for myself, because I didn't know how to handle her or deal with her the way that a ram needed to deal with a Dunamis woman. And I wasn't prepared. I wasn't equipped. My toolbox was bare when it came to dealing with my. So that's not just one of the reasons, but that's one of the sole reasons I needed to get myself together. I need to get my toolbox, some tools in my toolkit in order to be able to make our relationship better, make our spiritual growth better.
And build your kingdom.
Yes, and build my kingdom.
Build your kingdom with the small K.
Yes.
Because you got three beautiful children?
Yes.
And you, a man and a woman, that's your kingdom.
Yes.
That's what I teach. That's your kingdom. And we got to build it up, as opposed to just going in the house, shutting the door, paying bills, robbing Peter, having some sex, and we ain't talking, and somebody slipping out, and somebody in the basement, and doing all this other stuff. We are the church.
Yes.
And that's what we got to deal with, being the church. But the kingdom is saying who you are. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And so all we're teaching is the kingdom. I am so honored. I'm going to be honest with you, because you wasn't an easy birth.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? And it took 3 years.
Yes.
A lot of people think healing is a quick fix.
No.
And they don't want to labor, because you all as black men are stubborn.
Yes.
You agree with that?
Yes.
How do we deal with your stubbornness for healing to come forth?
So I remember it was the first RAM conference, and I was like, I had went to the conference, and I was like, I think I want to go. She was like, well, you're not coming with me. If you really want to come, you're going to drive to Atlanta yourself. And we were in Biloxi, Mississippi at the time, and I'm like, you know what? I need this. Mm-hmm. I need it. Even though I was stubborn and like, man, I was like, I got to a point in my life where I needed it. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't need my telling me to go. I needed it for myself.
You needed it for yourself.
Yes.
And you sought it out for yourself.
Yes.
And sometimes we as women in the church dragging y'all.
Yes.
Holding your hand, begging you, if we just leave you alone.
Yes.
And let you walk with your own 2 big feet.
Yes.
And seek the kingdom.
Yes.
For yourself.
Yes.
Religion want us to pull y'all. Seek it out. Because at the end of the day, you're your own individual man.
Yes.
And I think we baby you all too much, and we become more of your mother than your wife.
Yes.
And you all like to be on that titty.
Yes.
To pacify.
Yes.
So you won't get healed.
Yes. But you get to a point, every man will get to this point where you don't need that titty anymore. Like a child, at a certain point, you need to come off the breast. Mm-hmm. And I got to a point in my life where I needed to come off the breast, but I had to realize that for myself. And not could give me that. Nobody else could give me that but myself. So when I came to the conference, they had a lot of men. You could just feel it. It was it wasn't a lot of men, but the men that were there, all of us were feeling the same pain. Mm-hmm. All of us were thinking the same things. Yeah. We had women who had then begin to get their principles, their understanding, their teaching, their knowledge from you. And we were men who were still struggling, hadn't found our place, didn't have an outlet. And all of us were like, man, this is something new. And all of us, as we met, we were like, man, who is Mama Dee? What is Mama Dee? What is doing this? Mm-hmm. And our eyes were just like open. So the channel, we had a place where we can come as men and begin to communicate and express and talk to each other. And that's something that the church didn't have for men. Like they didn't provide.
Where you could really talk.
Yes, where you could really talk, not be this fake, person that's not talking about real life things. Mm-hmm. We had a place where we could be men and talk and discuss and share. And that's something that the church didn't have a place for that. They weren't prepared for that at any point.
And admit.
Yes. That's
the thing. Admit. It ain't about just, let me give you in Ephesians 5, you're supposed to love your wife. Admit your scallywags that you was with. Talk about the witches. Talk about how you went in there, what you could have done, how you was bamboozled. Does that make sense?
Yes.
As you all call it in Real Authoritative Men Cave, chop it really up.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Because life is life, and the enemy wants you all. Yes. I want you to speak to that camera right there and talk to every woman who is saying, I want my black man healed. Whether he's a son, whether he's a father, whether he's a husband, whether he's a nephew. Encourage that woman's heart where she don't give up.
Don't give up, because we need women. We need mothers. We need aunts. We need women. Men need women. And we need you guys to continue to push and just support as much as you can. But ultimately, it's that man's walk. It's his walk. He has to take that first step himself. But be supportive as much as possible. I know there's been times for myself that they may have meetings, conferences, not just conferences, meeting classes. Mm-hmm. And Maya was like, hey, Booker, we have class at 9. And I can tell you this, those are some of the best classes that I've ever attended. I may not have said a word, but just the message, just the teaching, just the communication, the honesty. That's what kept me coming and wanting more and desiring more. And I just say that, don't give up on that man. Don't give up on that son. Don't give up on that nephew. Don't give up on that cousin. As a black man, we need women. We need black, strong women in our lives.
Well, there you have it. Out of the mouth of a black man, beckoning for us to become the woman that God has called us to be. I'm so reminded as I close of Jeremiah 9, where it says God is calling forth a wailing women. And not just for us to wail, but wail that the tears may start gushing down the faces of our men, because they're holding so much in their heart, and God wants them to be positioned. So at the end of the day, healing is our bread, that we may bring healing to the hearts of our men. So if you haven't, as the woman, as the wife, as the warrior, joined our university, go to www.dunamiswomanuniversity.com. I double dare you to get involved, because you're going to find another woman like you who's saying, I want my legacy healed, set free, and delivered. Well, thank you for joining me. I will see you on next week, and I am the one and only Pastor Dee.